Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 9 of 2021. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag. For a 100% sign-up bonus, please visit Jazz Sports and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the website and the podcast, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my premium plays before the line moves. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com to become a free picks newsletter subscriber. Hope you all had a great weekend. We had a pretty good weekend in college basketball. 9-4 ATS and totals. So very happy about college basketball. You know, we were in a little bit of a slump, so we're bringing ourselves right out of that. So real excited for the future of college basketball. Obviously, we have the March Madness coming up, but we still have a whole month of February to break down a lot of these games and get into some plays and try to find as much value as possible for you, the listener, and obviously for us, because, you know, every time we talk about basketball, we always learn something new. But football is the big subject of this podcast because we have a Super Bowl coming up, and we also have a great guest to discuss some Super Bowl prop bettings. We have David Bearman back from ESPN. He's the deputy editor of sports betting to discuss some of his prop plays and any other information that we would like to get into for the Super Bowl. So very excited to bring David on this podcast and hopefully let you know some of the prop plays that we made in order to bring you some value. We probably give out about 50% of our prop plays on the show. And then we save about 50% of the ones we really like for premium subscribers. So just make sure you know that. If you're not a premium subscriber and you'd like to be one, please check us out at theoddsbreakers.com. So before we get into David and the prop plays, we are going to go over my Super Bowl 55 story, how I think the game is going to go, and what my thoughts are on the total and the spread in this big game. So let's get right into that. In most books, you have Kansas City -3, a juiced -3. It's around -120. And you have Tampa Bay about +3 at +100. You know, like I said before, I think this thing stops at -3.5. I don't think it's going to get to 4 because I think there's just too much Brady money that you're going to see. But at the same time, my number, if you remember, was -3.25. And my total was about 56 points in itself. So let me tell you how I got there. First of all, the most important data point in this game was the fact that Kansas City played Tampa Bay, right? They kicked the crap out of them the whole first half. And in the second half, they kind of coasted. If you remember, Tampa Bay covered only because of some garbage touchdowns at the end. And, well, obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs were never in trouble of losing that game. Never even a thought. Now, obviously, would that happen 10 out of 10 times? No, it wouldn't. But you can't ignore what we saw there with Tyreek Hill getting all those yards, Mahomes finding Tyreek Hill, and pretty much them having their way with Tampa Bay. at the same time, this is Tampa Bay's home field, right? And Tampa Bay knows this, and they've seen this team before. So in general, you kind of lean towards the other team that saw their tricks, saw their plays, so they might be able to stop them the next time. I mean, that's just kind of a general rule of thumb. The second time is usually a little bit closer of a game. You can apply that to pretty much any sports. But for me, you can't ignore what Kansas City did. But my numbers, my actual efficiency numbers run through my function, is actually favors Tampa Bay, right? If we only give Tampa Bay a 0.5 home field advantage to them, I actually have Tampa Bay by 1. I have Tampa Bay winning this game just using the pure numbers. So that's a big conflict, right? So if I use my power ratings, as I discussed before, and give Tampa Bay a 0.5, it's 3.25. The reason that is because Kansas City has a ton of upside. They could have scored a lot more points than they have all year because they've dogged it in the fourth quarter, just like when they played Tampa Bay, the Saints, and other teams. So that's the problem with these functions or algorithms. It doesn't really take what this team can possibly do, so you have to look back at your power ratings. On the other end, let's look at what they did on the road and what they did at home. Tampa was a better road team, and so was Kansas City. Tampa scores 28.5 points per game at home and 32.5 on the road, while Kansas City, 28 at home, 31.6 on the road. So it's almost like Kansas City might have a better home field advantage, I guess you'd call it, or field advantage, just because they're the better road team and Tampa was the worse home team. I've actually used those actual numbers, home and away numbers, and I have Kansas City winning by 2.5 points. Just using those pure numbers, including the efficiencies numbers, yards per point stuff, right? Strength of schedule. I actually have Kansas City by 2.5, but am I past the 3? No, I'm not, because, well, I think you haven't seen a ton from Kansas City in the fourth quarter, and there's your upside right there. So I have some conflicts here. My numbers actually say Tampa Bay. My power ratings have it right on the spread, and our data point has Kansas City blowing them away. So in all, average together, the spread is right. I think the spread is right, in my opinion. And if you like the upside to Kansas City, maybe even take an alt line. Minus 7.5 is at about plus 190. I did the numbers on that. Going from a pure 3.5 to 7.5 is about 70 cents, right? 75 cents. I think it came up to like 72 cents when I did the calculation. So, and it's not at 3.5, it's minus 3, minus 120. So that's about the juice that you pay, or that you should be getting if you're going to take an alternate line at minus 7.5. So, I mean, if you think that could happen, there's a couple pretty cool bets out there. There's Kansas City to win by 7 to 12 points at plus 425. It's actually plus 450 at Bookmaker. And then there's Kansas City to win 13 to 18 points at plus 625. Kind of like those better than the minus 7.5. Because I highly doubt that they're going to win past 17 points here, right? I could see it 7 to 12 or 13 to 18. So there's some ideas for you. Not saying I'm taking that, but you can get really, really creative with this line. Let's dig a little deeper. Football Outsiders has Tampa Bay the second best team in the league, and they have Kansas City the sixth best team in the league. I can't agree with that because of all the upside that Kansas City has, right? But if you go by pure Football Outsiders numbers, you're probably betting Tampa Bay on the money line, right? You're betting them on the money line if you go by DVOA. And they're a very, very reputable site. I love their stuff over there. It just doesn't factor in when teams quit because they're going to win the game, right? It doesn't factor in when they let off the gas pedal. Yards per play, you have Tampa Bay plus 0.6 and Kansas City plus 0.8. Advantage Kansas City, right? My exact algorithms are Tampa Bay winning 28-27 based on the efficiency, though, so that's a total of 55 points. And the one using the home and away numbers, I have Kansas City winning 29.5-27, which makes it 56.5. So I'm about right at those numbers. Kansas City has pretty good rushing yards per attempt, averaging about 4.5, while Tampa's strength is against the run, allowing only 3.7. On the other hand, Kansas City's a little weak against the run, right? Similar to the Green Bay Packers. They allow 4.5 rushing yards per attempt, but Tampa Bay only averages 4.1 rushing yards themselves. Kind of makes that a little bit more of a moot point. So, on the receiving side of things, Kansas City is an amazing 7.8 passing yards per attempt, while Tampa averages a 6.4 yards per pass on defense. So, that's pretty average, but they do give up almost 250 passing yards total per game. So, their passing defense is a little weak. You have an advantage for Kansas City there. Key injury. Obviously, we have the Fisher injury, right? And that could affect Kansas City's line. You have an advantage for Tampa there. I think they're going to blitz more. But Tampa's also got Jordan Whitehead, has a shoulder injury. They lost him last game against the Packers. Uncertain he's going to play. You also have Antoine Winfield, who already missed the championship game. So they're pretty banged up on safety. Advantage Kansas City there. Advantage Tampa Bay on the line. Advantage Kansas City passing deep. Tampa Bay is fourth in sacks this year and third in pressure rate. Remember from the podcast a week and a half ago or so. So Kansas City's 12th in pressure rate, 19th in sacks. So you wonder how they're going to get to Brady, if they're going to get to Brady. So there's your kind of ins and outs of the matchups themselves. But it really doesn't tell me that 3 is the wrong number, because I see advantages for both teams. It's just who's going to capitalize a little bit better according to the other team's deficiency. Who's going to capitalize on that better? I like Todd Bowles. He runs a pretty good defense, as you know. He's played with Bruce Arians before at the Cardinals years ago when the Cardinals were good. Carson Palmer, right? Byron Leftwich is not as liked by a lot of the analysts, but I think he's okay. I think he's doing a pretty good job. Plus, they're letting Tom Brady control a lot of the game and a lot of the play calling himself. So that's interesting. Kansas City's going to have to get a little bit of stop from Brady, maybe a pick or two, help him out a little bit. But in conclusion, I think the spread numbers are right. But one thing I will be taking is the first half under, because my story in this game is that Tampa Bay wins the coin toss. They're going to defer, let the Chiefs start with the ball first. And you know how the Chiefs start with the ball. They tend to screw up a little bit in the first quarter. They get hot later. I mean, you saw that in the playoffs the last few years, right? And then, they were jumped 9-0 against Buffalo. So they'll punt. And then Tampa Bay is going to establish a running game. Because if they don't, they're stupid. You don't want to give more time to Kansas City to throw more passes. You want to control possession of the ball. I think Byron Leftwich knows this enough. And I think Bruce Arians knows this too. And that's why I kind of like the first half under. I think it's the rushing attempts are going to be there for Tampa Bay, at least in the first half, right? And some of these are going to correlate with some of the props that I give out when I talk to David Bearman. So, in my opinion, I'm going to do what I always do, which works a lot of the time. First half under, I'm looking for a 28 here. It's not there yet. I'm going to try to get a 28. Maybe I bet it's late Saturday night. Maybe I bet it early Sunday. I just think there's going to be a lot of money coming in on the unders and things like that on Sunday because people are just waiting for the public. But at the same time, the public, a lot of them bet early now too. So last year, I remember some of the public plays came in early, and the people trying to hit the unders actually kind of screwed up by waiting too long, right? Unders started filtering in on Saturday, and then the numbers got worse. So it's going to be interesting to see when that's going to happen. I might even talk to David about that. And I might also talk to Rafael Esparza, who's coming on later this week, who's actually created some of the prop bets for my bookie. So he's going to be on, and we'll discuss a little bit more about that. But at the same time, I think that the Kansas City punt, Tampa Bay run the ball. Even if Kansas City doesn't punt, Tampa Bay's got to run the ball. And we're going to have a lower scoring first half. Nobody wants to screw up and throw that big interception. Second half, it's on. Hopefully a lot of fireworks. Hopefully a lot of touchdowns. I mean, fair warning. When you're betting these props, think to yourself, what's going to happen if the score is 13-3? I think that Rams Patriots Super Bowl was really low scoring like that, right? What's going to happen to your bankroll if you get a 13-3 game or 17-10, right? 23-20. Lots of field goals or something, right? I mean, what's going to happen? So always have plans that could work out for both ways, right? Don't have all your eggs on the one basket of overs, and same with unders. I mean, this could easily be a 35-32 Super Bowl as well. But at the same time, when you're making these prop bets, don't sit there and make it a miserable experience. Don't bet too much. Just bet what you can control, and don't let it ruin the game for you. Enjoy the game. If that's what it takes to look at your props later, then just look at them after the game. Maybe the next day even. Enjoy the game. You might have some props in the top of your mind that you know that's going to hit, and you'll smile. But don't sit there and just be stressing them during the game because you're just ruining the game for yourself. There's people who have done that. When I was younger, I'm sure I've done that. Whatever prop bets you make, just forget about it and check it after. Don't be that guy that's staring at their phone during the Super Bowl going, "Fucking bullshit!" Also, don't be that guy that's, "Oh man, I have no idea what's going on." Whatever you're doing and whatever you decide to do, make sure you set yourself up for some success, to have fun, and enjoy the game with your peers. All right, well, now let's get into a little bit of Super Bowl prop betting with our guest, ESPN's David Bearman. And now I'm excited to welcome back to the Odds Breakers the deputy editor of sports betting at ESPN and huge Dolphins fan, Mr. David Bearman from ESPN.com. You can follow him on Twitter at DBearmanESPN. David, the Super Bowl is around the corner, my man. Are you excited?
I am. I'm just happy it's here. You know, I know everybody loves the 2-week break to get the teams prepped and ready to go, but to me, it's just play the game. Like, I had no idea what to do with myself on last Sunday. There was no games. There was no Pro Bowl. Yeah, you could bet on the NBA and college basketball, but come on, we're all football guys. And a week without football was tough, but it's here. We have another week. 2 feet of snow on the ground. Nothing like the Super Bowl coming up.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, it's the end of football. Feels like an end of a bad COVID era somewhat, although we're still dealing with it. But at the same time, lots of plays, lots of bets, and lots of opportunity is out there. What is your plans to watch the big game?
Still be decided. I know normally there's a Super Bowl party somewhere that you go to, whether it's at your boss's house or a friend's house, or I worked the last couple of them at the office. Obviously, no one's going to have a party, and we're not going to the office. So I'm probably going to watch it at my own TV and keep track of all the props and the bets that are happening and winning, and probably just watch it with my family. My kid is now 6, so it might be the first time that he actually tunes in and watches the Super Bowl. Other Super Bowls he's been around, but then he finds, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or Paw Patrol on a different TV somewhere.
Of course, my man. Of course. We have some friends that already had COVID, actually, so we might be checking out the Super Bowl with them, which we've watched it before with them anyway. But nothing too big. I don't like to get too distracted. I like to watch the game, and enjoy it. I don't like big parties where people are talking to you too much throughout this game. It's something, especially if you're going to be betting the props and stuff. You just want to suck in the last bit of football that you're going to get because it's the last game of the year. So that's what I'm going to do, my man. What is ESPN, though? Whether Daily Wager, Chalk, what do you guys have planned? Anything big coming up?
We have shows every single day on Daily Wager, including Super Bowl Sunday. As far as Chalk is concerned, we are going to have our big best bets article out tomorrow, which will I lost track of how many different props were picked in that. We have every one of our writers and editors, there's 9 of them in there, all have a pick on the game and or the side, and then you just go into props. And I think if I did Control F Brady, it might come up like 54 times. So we're going to have our big piece out tomorrow with all-encompassing props, sides, bets, and nuggets. Thursday, we're going to, back by popular demand, we're going to have our props score sheet. Think of a bingo card that you can print out that has the notable props on there. I selected them, so hopefully I selected the right ones. Print it out, bring it to your Super Bowl party. Of course, 10 people or less at 6 feet apart. But you can have that scorecard to print out. And then Friday, we're going to have Chris Bearman, the Swami, is going to come out with his Super Bowl pick. So we'll have that on Friday morning. Always one of our favorites. I'm actually going to talk to him later tonight or tomorrow to get that pick. And then, we have Daily Wager on every single day. Our guys are making picks, and it's big. It's huge. It's the end of the season, and there's just one game left. And I don't want to preview it, but we got picks all over the place, so you guys will enjoy it.
Oh, I'm excited to see it. I mean, there's so many props out there, so great stuff. I know you guys are hard at work over there trying to find the best angles. Before we get into that, there's been already a huge trade in the NFL here, and doesn't really say a whole lot for Jared Goff, unfortunately. Poor guy. He just say, "Oh, so you're trading me for another first pick of the draft, yet you're giving up 2 first rounders and a third rounder." He can't be having that great of a day, but maybe it's going to motivate him. Sometimes a change of scenery is pretty good. But obviously Deshawn Watson's out there, and I've heard some rumors with the Dolphins. I mean, would you trade Tua and maybe a first rounder for a Watson? What are your thoughts on that, just as a Dolphins fan? And I can give you mine as a Bears fan too.
I would not. I'm behind the Tua camp. I want to see what he has. I think it's severely unfair to judge a guy off 9 games without preseason, without training camp, with an offensive coordinator who was brought in for the other quarterback. Chan Gailey was brought in for Fitzpatrick because nobody knew if Tua was going to, be drafted because the offensive coordinator was decided ahead of time. And also, he's a rookie. He's 20-something years old. He's been there for 9 games, no camp, no familiarity with the offense, and he's coming off a major hip surgery. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for Tua, but he also led the team to within 1 game of the playoffs. People forget that because it ended so badly with the loss to Buffalo. That being said, I also think from a building standpoint, what the Dolphins have been doing over the last couple of years is getting draft capital, getting salary cap capital, and building around. You look at what Tua did or didn't do this past year, and one of the things I didn't mention when I mentioned the lack of training camp, 9 games, yada, 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 is he also didn't have any weapons. You had Preston Williams was hurt, Gesicki was in and out, Devontae Parker was in and out. Nobody knew that Myles Gaskin was going to be your leading running back for the year, and he missed 3 games of Tua's tenure. So he's throwing to you. He's throwing to me. He's not throwing to all pro wide receivers out there. So you want to judge Tua a year from now, coming off a season where we get him weapons, where he has an off season, and where he's the starting quarterback from day one, and he doesn't do well, fine. I'd be open to trading him and opening to replacing him. But at this point, I don't think you have the complete picture. I think fans who are jumping off the Tua bandwagon or reacting way too quickly to a small sample size with some poor weapons out there. I mean, he had a game that he won. I can't remember which one it was, where he was missing Parker, Grant, Williams, Gesicki, Gaskin. There were guys that were catching passes, and I'd like to consider myself one of the biggest Dolphin fans on the planet. There were guys catching passes I had never heard of before that day. So give them a chance. As far as the trade is concerned, I would not give up the draft capital that they have worked so hard to get. Is Deshaun Watson better than Tua? Absolutely. Who would not want Deshaun Watson on his team? Like, he's a future Hall of Famer, led the league in almost every stat this year. He's awesome. But I'm not giving up the 3 pick, the 18 pick, next year's first. Like, you saw what Goff was worth. You've seen what Jake Cutler was worth years ago. Whatever team is going to get Watson is going to have to give up 3 to 4 first-round picks. And I'm not doing that. Like, the Dolphins have put themselves in a position to build for the future. They have 4 of the first 50 picks. They have way under the salary cap. Why mortgage all of that for the quick fix of Watson, who, full transparency, hasn't led his team to anything? Now, he had weapon problems as well, but the weapons that he had, far better than what Tua had. And I'm not trying to compare the two because that's fool's errand there. Like, obviously, you want Watson. But I'm not giving up. Now, if they came to me and said, would you trade Tua for Watson straight up, I'd be an idiot to not consider that. Like, you're talking about 25-year-old Deshaun Watson. Duh. Proven commodity. Tua's not. But if you're asking me for Tua, the 3 pick, the 18 pick, next year's first, 2023 first, forget it. I'm out. Like, roll with Tua. And then if the way the NFL has been going recently, because you go back 3 or 4 years, none of these blockbuster trades ever happened in the NFL. The NFL was the worst of the worst when it came to trades. You always saw the mega deals in baseball. You saw them in the NBA. You never saw them in football. Now we're seeing mega deals. And a year from now, there'll be the next Deshaun Watson who will be available to be traded. I mean, Goff got traded. Stafford got traded. You're going to see more trades coming up. There will be teams giving up on players like Sam Darnold and others. Like, I mean, would you have given up on – I know it's a hard comparison, but look at Josh Allen's first year. It wasn't stellar. It wasn't Hall of Fame worthy. People weren't jumping off the Josh Allen bandwagon begging for Deshaun Watson. And look what Allen did in year 2. When they got him Stephon Diggs and they got him weapons. What will Tua be like next year if he had a Stephon Diggs or one of the Alabama or LSU wide receivers, or they bring in Galladay? Like, if I'm running the team, I'm drafting a wide receiver, I'm drafting a running back. I have 4 second-year players now on the offensive line, maybe draft another, and I'm going to go get a Galladay, a Godwin, somebody that can help out. You need the weapons. A year from now, let's have this conversation.
All right. No, very detailed answer there. And obviously, it looks like, according to ESPN here, 21 minutes ago, they promoted Eric Studsville and George Godsey to co-offensive coordinators at the Dolphins. So there you go. It looks like they did well in the Senior Bowl. So obviously, I don't know if you heard that before, but something to think about. I definitely think that the offense coordinator was bad. I mean, last year in Miami. And I think there's a big opportunity for improvement there. I don't know a lot about, these two guys are going to be co-offensive coordinators here, but maybe someone shines here. I think, what was it, Chain here that they had that resigned?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Cam Gilly resigned, and he was brought in for Fitzpatrick. He was Fitzpatrick's coordinator before, head coach before in Buffalo. So they brought him in to run Fitzpatrick's offense, not Tua's offense. So there'll be a change there. And, it just happened 20 minutes ago, so I haven't had a chance to digest it yet. But I would say promoting 2 guys who have worked with Tua is not the worst things in the world. Yeah,
Chan Gailey. Well, the play calling looked like the Bears play calling to me. And that's why I agree with you on this premise that, they will want 3 first-round draft picks or 2 first-rounders, a second-rounder. And if there's just Tua, they probably still want a first round and another first round with Tua. And so I see what you're saying. It's not like the Rams situation where their guys are getting older, like Ramsey and obviously Donald. They have to win now. So they had to make that move. What's funny is that the Rams haven't had a number 1 draft pick in 5 years, and now you're going to add 2 more years to it.
It was funny when I first saw the trade come across, and it was not specific, which obviously happens, when the trade first gets announced. It said Rams trade Goff and 2 first-round picks for Stafford. The first thing I thought was, what first-round picks? We talking 20, 30? They don't have any. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, you saw that it was 23, 24. They don't have any. And it's, hey, the Rams have a completely different philosophy than other teams, and more power to them. They're winning and they're making the playoffs, and now they got what I would say is an improvement at quarterback. I was never a big Jared Goff fan. I'm not saying he's not good. I just didn't see the love when everybody traded up for him in the first round. I didn't see it for Carson Wentz either, but each one of them had an all-pro year that led in a Super Bowl appearance. In Goff's case, they lost. In Wentz's case, he didn't play, but they won. I think that time has run out, and you're seeing that they're not as good as people thought they were. And now you get a Matt Stafford who was really good, but just was in the wrong place. Oh,
yeah, totally, for sure. And as a Bears fan, the painful part for us is we missed on our receiver, which should have been drafted in the first round anyway. Back when we drafted White, I was like, what are you doing draft a receiver the first year rebuild? And then they have to pay for Robinson, Allen Robinson. And now you miss on Watson, and now you're going to pay for him. It's kind of like, just get rid of the GM, quit screwing up our future. I'm not even sure if the Bears are even ready to win now that the defense is getting old. So, I would love Watson, but the price is going to be so big. It would be very stressful if the Bears did give up 2 or 3 first-round draft picks and whoever else to get them. So I see your point on that. Let's move right into the Super Bowl then, man. Looking at these lines, you're looking at a 3 that's juiced at -120 and a total around 56. Do you agree with where these lines are set?
I do, and I actually think the Chiefs are more than 3 points better than the Bucs, but I understand the books not wanting to go any higher than 3. That's as we know, it's a special key number, and like I have it closer to 4.5 in terms of power rankings, but there's been a lot of love on the Bucs. It's hard to lay that many points. When you're facing Tom Brady and the Bucs, you see what they've done over the last 7 to 8 weeks. It's hard to put it more than 3, but at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs win by at least 1 score, if not 2. I have it in there. I took the Chiefs -3, and some of the props you'll see me on tomorrow include some margins of victories and some laying 7 to 10 points that I think they can do it. I just don't think the Bucs can keep up with the Chiefs. I do think where the number is fair, and I'm actually, if it got to 3.5 or 4, I would think about the other side. But at 3, I'm taking the Chiefs.
All right, no, and that's what a lot of people are saying here. For me, my power ratings have it right on the number. The sample size that you saw was only that one game, but it's the best data point you can have where the Chiefs should have blown them out. So you have that, and then my efficiency numbers and algorithm has Tampa the side, pretty much Tampa, around pick 'em or -2.5 if you used a home road splits. The funny thing is that Tampa was a much better away team than they were a home team this year. So I find that funny, but I think there's just going to be a lot more value going into the prop market here. And I think it's important to, point some of these misconceptions out as well. I think a lot of people expecting a 60 to 70 point game, and I'm not sure if it starts out that way. I think it starts out a little slow, and I think that they're smart enough over there, Bruce Arians, to run the ball the first half, So, I think they're going to try to limit the time Patrick Mahomes gets the ball, and that would be smart for Tampa if they do that. So I kind of like the first half under myself.
It's funny you bring that up. You want to hear what my number 1 top prop that's going to be in the column tomorrow?
Of course.
Will there be a score in the first 5 minutes of the game? No, -135, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not going to sit there and say I'm resting my laurels on the fact that Brady in his 9 previous Super Bowls has led his teams to 3 total points. I'm not going to rest on that because it's a great note. Different team, different coach, different offense, different coordinators, different players other than Gronk. Forget it. I'm throwing that out the window. But if you look at the 2 teams, the Chiefs, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals in the first 5 minutes of their 18 games. That's 22% of the time they have scored in the first 5 minutes. Bucs, slightly better, 5 touchdowns and a field goal. So you're looking at close to 33% of the time in their games. Total between the 2 teams, it's less than 30% of the time, if you combine the Chiefs and the Bucks, they score in the first 5 minutes. What is 135? 135 equates to about an implied value of about 57%. So you're getting a lot of value. Now, could they score in the first 5 minutes? Of course. You have Tom Brady on one side, and you have the quickest, the best offense in the game on the other side. However, you mentioned Bruce Arians is going to want to run the ball. The Chiefs will, if they win the coin toss, will probably defer anyway. So you look at the Bucks getting the ball, run the ball, slow it down. If the Chiefs get it first, they have not shown to be a team that scores in the first 5 minutes. That's before even factoring in some of the stuff that people can't really measure, but 2 weeks rest, Super Bowl nerves, starting the game, blah, 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 blah. All of that, I think, line, and I can throw that all the way and just look at the pure stats. These teams just don't score early. And if you're right, and Bruce Arians does slow it down to keep Mahomes off, I do like your play of the under in the first half, but I also like that there'll be no score in the first 5 minutes. Because really, you're talking about, a couple of punts or a couple of first downs, and the 5 minutes is gone real quickly. So now, could they score on the first play of the game? Absolutely. It's the Chiefs. It's the Tom Brady on the other side. I just think it'll go a little bit longer than that.
Right. And people are going to remember that first drive that Tampa did against Green Bay, and maybe they'll make that number a little bit sweeter if people are going to bet that, One thing about this is I've always learned to take your overs early and your unders late. I think if you don't have a good balance of those, you can get in a lot of trouble because you can get another Super Bowl that's, 13-17. It can happen. Teams will just, get possession and keep getting fourth downs and converting fourth downs until they get to the 40-yard line. And then they might have to punt or miss a field goal. You never know what's going to happen. So you don't set yourself up for defeat. If you lean towards the under, maybe you have more unders a little bit, but also have some overs. Pick your players. And if you like the over 156, maybe you're going to have a little bit more overs in this market. So that's the way I'm going to play it. And I might be able to set myself up for a few middles here, too, for some of the overs that I did take. So great stuff. Looks like already we're getting into the game here. Coin toss. Are you going to bet the coin toss?
I can tell you that even though there's no statistical rhyme or reason to bet the coin toss, that I have made it a personal fun prop that I have bet the coin toss every single day, every single year since I was in college. I can't tell you how or why. But I have bet the coin toss for many, many, many years, and I always bet tails, and I've been profitable. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But now that books are offering minus 102 and minus 101, it's almost foolish not to, because you're getting basically free juice. The books that decide to rip you off at 115, it's not worth it. I always pick tails. There's no rhyme or reason to it. 29 and 25 to the tails. It's just a fun thing to start your Super Bowl off up a little bit, up a unit or two. Of course, you can always start down a unit or two, but it's fun.
Well, on a 50% chance, any juice really is it's actually negative expected value. But anyone minus 102, minus 105, I have no problem. This is fun, right? It's not like you're giving this out to a member or anything. But my personal belief in the way my philosophy has to be is like, unless I'm getting plus 100 on an exact 50% prop, I will not take under expected value. And that's just that's just my old man in me, my stubbornness. So I won't. But in saying that, the coin toss is going to be heads because tails always fails, David. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. I think whatever you want to do to have fun, and that's the important thing. And just remember when you're watching this game, enjoy the game. Don't focus too much upon what happened with your props until the very end. Well, moving into the game a little bit, maybe we should talk about the first score here. So I'll give you one of mine here, and I took this. I think the first score is a field goal, and this kind of correlates to what you're saying about nerves, about the first 5 minutes. These teams don't want to mess up, and I think that especially when it comes to the Super Bowl, the worst thing that you're going to hate yourself for is if you throw that first interception. Well, it tightens up a little bit in the red zone. It tightens up in plus territory. One 10-yard holding call could screw up a touchdown drive and bring out Butker and and they'll go for a field goal on the Kansas City side. And obviously Tampa Bay's kicking the heck out of field goals lately. I don't think they missed in the playoffs. So I like the plus 400 for Kansas City first score field goal and the plus 500 for Tampa. So essentially you're getting plus 300 on one side, plus 400 on one side, plus 350 average. I actually did the numbers on the chances of making a field goal, and the true number, it should be plus 165-ish right on both teams. So looking at it, maybe about plus 330 it should be for both. So you're already at a mix. But the edge here is I think that the teams have been better in the red zone this playoffs, and there's going to be some nerves. It's nice to get the first score too. So these teams will settle for a field goal. So I'm going to go with that, David.
I actually like that philosophy, and if you want the actual numbers, and again, these are just trends in Super Bowl history, it's been 25 touchdowns, 24 actually that math is off. 26 touchdowns, 25 field goals, 3 safeties. Over the course of Super Bowl history, obviously people remember the Brady and the Manning safeties that started the games off 2-0, which you've only seen 3 times. I would lean field goal first, even though it's kind of even over time, because of the things that you just said, and if the AFC Championship game is any indication of how the game might go, the Chiefs were able to move the ball, but they were held to field goals. And eventually they broke out and scored touchdowns, and neither team is afraid of kicking field goals because they have 2 good kickers. The only thing that gives me pause of making that bet, and you're 100% right that the numbers are in your favor to do it the way you're doing it, is you also have 2 coaches that are not afraid to go for it on fourth down. Now, if you have a holding penalty, then sure, it's going to back it up. But if it's 4th and 1 in field goal range, each one of these coaches has proven that they will go for it. So what you need is that 5-yard false start to make it 4th and 6, or that holding penalty to screw over your drive. Because if it gets into the 4th and 2, you saw what Andy Reid did versus the Browns. I mean, that's an all-time classic 4th and 1 call when not one person, we always joke, everybody in the stadium knew what that play call was going to be. In this case, everybody in the world thought they were not going to snap that ball. Not only did they snap it, they threw it and got the first down to Tyreek Hill from a backup quarterback throwing the ball. So I would only be worried because they would tend to go for it, but it is early, and early I think you do take the field goal. So I would not be surprised at all if the first score is a field goal. It's just just like your philosophy of not taking any bet that you have minus expected value with it. To me, when I look at Super Bowl props, I look at stuff that has a little bit of strategy to it, and I think you're taking the field goal prop and adding the strategy with the 350 and the 400. I just look at it like the coin toss and first score, and there's nothing in me studying box scores that tells me what's going to happen, as opposed to the first score of the first 5 minutes. These teams don't score. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I look at it as there's value there compared to what the line is. And another one that I like is the first turnover of the game will be an interception. Over the course of Super Bowl history, again, one game means nothing to the other, 84% of the time, the first turnover in a Super Bowl has been an interception. For whatever reason, higher than any playoff game and higher than regular season. Obviously, Mahomes, one of the best in the NFL at not throwing picks. Brady, surprisingly, has thrown a lot of picks. And I just think that you're getting good value that the first turnover can be an interception. And at that, I would actually pick the Bucs to throw the first interception at minus 140. First turnover of the game, minus 160. Those are some of the plays that I'm on.
All right. Well, the first turnover of the game, I didn't even know that it was so high that it was an interception in Super Bowl history. So that's interesting. Looks like according to the 24 field goals to 26 touchdowns, 3 safeties, whatever it was, something like that. Yep. That's really in my favor. Then it
is in your favor.
That's fantastic, and it probably plays to everything I said. So now you just made me a lot happier about taking it. And one thing I will say, 4th and 1 probably comes up maybe 15% of the time. You know, it doesn't come up all the time. And I'll tell you this: one thing that I do have in my pocket is Tampa Bay has the best rushing defense in the league. So they could stuff that as well, which would also help your 5-minute prop if that happens, wouldn't it? So yes. Good stuff there. I hear your kiddos in the back. You babysitting a little bit?
They're home. It's a snow day. Yesterday they had they had remote learning yesterday, and today the school threw their hands up and said it's a snow day. So they're running around with dress up stuff, and they hear me talking. And actually earlier when you heard me say Tua, we were talking about Tua and Watson. They both ran over because if you think I'm a big Tua fan, you should see my two kids. Even at 4 and 6, they're both huge Tua fans because that's all they've ever known is Tua.
Right. So, well, they got to keep him now then, right? We have to keep Tua now for sure. Okay.
We actually have, between wife, kids, and me, and my parents are down in Florida and they're season ticket holders. They shipped us up all Tua jerseys, so all of us have like shirts. I have a Tua jersey, but then we all have matching Tua shirts, so it's kind of crazy up here.
All right. Well, that's awesome, man. And nice work taking care of the kiddos, of course. Let's move into the first touchdown. I have a couple that I want to give out here. And I think there's just too much value on this running back here, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, plus 1,300 for the first score touchdown. And I like him because I think, A, he's going to be healthy now by the Super Bowl, and he was their bell cow back. And B, I mean, running backs score touchdowns much more frequently in general than other players, you know? And plus, go ahead.
You're getting huge value there because of the fact that you're talking about a passing offense. Like, Kansas City is not known as a running offense, but if it comes down to 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1, they're going to run it with Clyde. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier, that Tampa has the number 1 rush defense, that works against you there, but 15-1 or 14-1 is good value any way you look at it. So
not just that, Mahomes won't run the ball because he just got concussed a couple weeks ago. We won on that last year at 25-1. First touchdown score, Mahomes. That was our biggest prop hit in a few years. Was Mahomes at 25-1. But now I'm going against that because they don't want to get his bell rung, and I think Edwards-Helaire is going to get in. And plus, Edwards-Helaire catches the ball. There's a very good chance he's going to be that open receiver. So 13-1, you're getting great value. And just on the other side of the coin, you want to make a couple others because you can be, wrong about that and still hit another long shot. Leonard Fournette's at 11-1. Maybe throw a half star on him. He's going to get a lot of play, which he's been getting a lot more play in the playoffs so far. Brady doesn't run the ball much. So I think there's value on Fournette. And the third one I'm taking is Mike Evans at 1,000-1. So you have 3 plays here, and if any one of these hits, you're getting plus 700 or better, right? Mike Evans scored the most amount of touchdowns for Tampa, and the second wasn't even close. He had 13 touchdowns this year. He's Brady's number 1 red zone target right now. And obviously tight ends are big, but the 2 tight ends there, I mean, which one are you going to pick, Brate or Gronk? I like Evans right there. So do you have any?
Yeah, this is, I would say that in terms of scoring the first touchdown, that we've never seen, or it's been a long time since we've seen a Super Bowl with this much star power. I mean, you have Brady, and you mentioned Fournette, who was an all-pro years ago in Jacksonville, who has become their bell cow. You have Evans. You have Godwin. You have Gronk. You have weapons. And on the other side, you're talking about the best offense in football for the last couple of years with an all-pro rookie running back there, an all-pro tight end in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and all these weapons with the best quarterback in the game at Mahomes and Brady on the other side. So there's so many different ways to go, which all of them are almost double digits to be the first one to score the touchdown. I actually really like your Fournette one because, and I made the mistake last week. I had a lot of plays last week on Ronald Jones the second, and I missed out because Jones did nothing and Fournette got all the catches. Just like you talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have a guy in Fournette who is catching balls and has become one of Brady's best dump down guys. And the other thing I want to point out is even though the Chiefs defense doesn't get much credit because they're not one of the best defenses in football, their secondary is. And our fantasy analyst Mike Clay has pointed out, you'll see it in the column tomorrow, that the Kansas City secondary has held wide receivers to the second least amount of targets and the second least amount of catches of all the teams. So the Chiefs secondary is pretty damn good. And if the Chiefs secondary is going to stop the wide receivers and the tight end, then Brady's just going to dump to Fournette or run it with Fournette. So I think you're getting good value there with the Bucs backfield.
All right, my man. Well, that kind of correlates a little bit more too to one of my in-game plays here. I do think Tampa will be foolish if they don't try and establish the run in the first half. And that's why I kind of like the first half under, but I'm greedy. I'm going to wait for the 28. And if I don't get the 28, I'm going to buy the 28. But I think that Tom Brady's passing attempts under 39.5 at even money is a very, very good one. Just because if Tom Brady's going to throw the ball more than that, please tell me now, because I'll lay the money with the Chiefs. I will, because he's not going to win a shootout with Patrick Mahomes and those weapons with guys like Tyreek Hill. And so I think that Bruce Arians is smart enough to tell Byron Leftwich that Brady can't be throwing the ball the first half. I like the under 39.5. So, and going with what you said about Fournette, I'm taking Fournette over 3.5 receptions on Bookmaker. I got plus 105 there. I like that for a larger play, 1.5 stars at least for a prop. And if you remember Tom Brady to James White, well, that's made us some money over the past Patriots Super Bowls. And so, in my opinion, Bruce Arians is going to make sure that the ball gets dumped to Leonard Fournette. Brady threw down deep last week, got 3 interceptions, and was very fortunate to still win that game while throwing all those picks. He's going to dump it to Fournette, my man. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right there. We just talked about how Brady is going to dump it because the Chiefs secondary is pretty good. And I was looking at our preview of our column for tomorrow, and we actually have 3 different guys all over the overs of Fournette. We have 1 pick of over 23.5 receiving yards, 1 pick of over 3.5 receptions that you're on, and 1 pick of over 48.5 rush yards. So our guys, our analysts, actually think Fournette's due for a game in terms of betting wise, and all those are priced low. And I actually really like the over 3.5 receptions because what we just talked about, dumping it off, not being able to throw downfield like he used to, and the Chiefs secondary. I think that all points to a good play for Fournette.
Great stuff, man. Do you have any other in-game props you want to throw out there?
I think I mentioned the one about the who will throw the first interception was the only one I've played so far. I've also played some margins. I think Kansas City 7-12, win by 7-12, and the Bucks to win by 1-6. The way I see this game is either the Bucks are going to win by 2 scores, or with them just not being able to be stopped, or the Bucks will win a close one like Brady does in almost every Super Bowl and win by a field goal, which comes it to 1-6. I've also played over Tom Brady 2 touchdown passes, only because if you look at what Brady's team has done over the last 8 to 10 games, he has thrown 2 or more touchdown passes in about 70% of them. And even though I did mention how great the secondary has been for Kansas City, I think the way Brady and the Bucs stay in the game is by throwing the ball and being able to get there. So I think taking Brady over 2 touchdowns at plus money will be a good play. And the rest of them I just have to figure out over time. We have a couple of days left, but right now I've taken all pregame ones, and I'll be working on the in-game ones shortly.
Brady over 2 touchdowns is plus money?
Last I checked, unless that's changed recently, it was over 2.5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I got to look at that because I'll take that too if that's the case. I don't remember seeing that one or focusing on it. Right when I was prop shopping, it's kind of like when you're doing this, you're like shopping. Guy, this is how guys shop. They look at they look at betting boards. So I guess I might have overlooked that aisle. So we'll have to
I actually just
circle
found
back.
it in the column. Over 2.5 is plus 140, and I actually played that in the NFC Championship game as well, and won on that when he had 3.
Okay, 2.5. So the hook, yep. Yep. But still, no, and that's more what I thought it should be because a push and plus money. Hell, I'll do that all day. Give me a max limit bet on that one. So no, great stuff. So for me, I have a couple others I want to give out there. I know that everyone thinks that the Tyreek Hill is going to be public here, and maybe it will. But it's because, of course, everyone's going to say that Tyreek got 200 yards in the first quarter against Tampa, and so now everyone's going to bet the over, and I'll come in and bet the under. Well, do whatever the hell you want. But I noticed a mismatch there, and their secondary just can't stop Tyreek Hill, and I think that's why Andy Reid went to Tyreek Hill. And I really think that Tyreek Hill can do this again. I mean, the man can't be stopped. It reminds me a little bit of Alabama, right? When Smith scored all those points, they didn't have an answer for him. Well, I don't think Tampa's got an answer for Hill. In my opinion, Tampa's secondary was their crutch. They allowed 250 pass yards per game. So, normally I'm the guy that fade to number 1 receiver every year. Anybody that's listened to the odds breakers for the past years knows that I usually fade the top receiver and go high in the second. Well, in this case, just from the matchups that I'm seeing, I don't see how they're going to stop Tyreek Hill. And if they really try to stop Tyreek Hill, then I think the rest of the team is just going to blow them up. But in my opinion, they're just going to try to play the best they can and contain him. And Tyreek Hill is going to get over 100 yards. So over 102 yards, I'm going to take Tyreek Hill for a star. And I'll tell you right now, if it does get really too high by Saturday, maybe like 120 or 115, even more, I might buy back a little bit, see if I can middle that. But Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, is going to have a big game.
Yeah, he's his number, the one I have in front of me is 91.5, and he's reached 92 yards in 7 games this season, including 6 of his past 10 games, including both playoff games and obviously the absurd performance, 13 for 269 and 3 scores last time they played him. They did say they're going to focus on him, and I understand that, but there's a difference between focusing on him and actually being able to stop him. And you're 100% right. They don't have, especially with the injuries to Tampa's secondary, and it's one of the main reasons why I'm bullish on the Chiefs in this game, is I don't think, even though they have a great rush defense, and Tampa has had a great defense over the last 10 games, I don't think they have the capabilities of stopping this offense. If they concentrate on Hill and shut Hill down, they're not covering Kelsey. And if they're covering Kelsey, they're not covering Hill. And there's just so many weapons everywhere, and then Mahomes can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. I just think that this is a situation where Brady's team is facing one of the best teams he's ever faced in the Super Bowl. And if he can't cover all the weapons, it's going to be a track meet. And Kansas City wins track meets. Tampa Bay does not.
I agree. And that's why I'd be scared to take Tyreek Hill under a little bit. And I know that, they did somewhat shut down Devontae Adams, but the Packers had a really bad game, and he still got 67 yards. And Valdez-Scantling got deep, and Hill goes deep. Valdez-Scantling got over 110 yards. So I'm not that worried about Tyreek Hill here. I think he's going to get his. But I also, this is my favorite prop, maybe at minus 190, Tampa Bay over 1.5 sacks. I mean, I'm going to put a few stars on this at least here. The Eric Fisher injury is going to screw some stuff up. And I did think about taking the penalty prop, but then I pulled back and I'm like, I'm rather going to take the sack prop, because Mahomes will take a few sacks. He'll go down, but he can still, convert the second and long, the third and long like nothing. We've seen this all year. I think Tampa's going to get 2 sacks, and I'll pay the juice for it. And it's only minus 190. I mean, think of yourself betting the Dodgers at home versus the Rockies or something, right? I mean, you're going to lay more than minus 190 there. I think that the Tampa Bay is going to get at least 2, probably 3 or 4 sacks on Mahomes before the day is done.
And didn't they? I think they had that on the first possession of the game against Rodgers, who is as mobile of a quarterback as it's got in the NFL. Obviously, Rodgers can move all over the place. Mahomes can too, but battling a little bit of a foot injury. So I agree with you there, and I actually not only like that, but I like the fact that combined 4 sacks is what the total is combined between the two teams. I see that going over because, yes, Tampa's going to get to Mahomes without Fisher, and they're going to be able to get him at least 2 times to cover your prop. But I've also seen Tom Brady when there's pressure. Brady goes down. Brady's not running. Brady's not scrambling. The only time you see Brady run is when it's 4th and inches and he pushes the whole line forward. Brady's going to go down when there's pressure. So I think each team's going to get a pair of sacks at least. And if you can get the number at 4, at the very minimum, you're going to get a push out of that. I'm always a big fan of doing overs with sack props. I just think quarterbacks are a lot more conservative in Super Bowls, and instead of throwing it away or throwing a pick, that they'll just take the sack and go on to the next play. Because both these teams, Brady showed it in the last game when he hit 3rd and long on 5 consecutive times and never count out Mahomes. Both these quarterbacks know they can convert 3rd and long and 2nd and long, so take the sack instead of throwing away the interception.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with you on the 4 sacks as well. Great stuff there. And the last thing I want to say is Tampa Bay had the 3rd most sacks this year, and they were ranked 4th at pressure rate for QB. Mm-hmm. So all those things you add together on that side of it. So
I look at the Brady situation with the sacks, and I go back to Peyton Manning's Super Bowl win that he had, the last Super Bowl when they beat Carolina. And I bet the over sacks in that game too. And every time they got near Peyton, he just fell down because he was older and nobody was open and he fell. Now, I'm not saying Brady's going to do what Manning does, but the older quarterbacks, if they're not going to get outside the pocket, will go down. And I think Brady will do that 2 or 3 times.
Right. And plus the over sack prop is a protection against a low-scoring game. You can get the over sacks and still have a high-scoring game, but I'll tell you this, if you're looking at like a 24-20 type game where the under's hitting and maybe some of your over props are not hitting, the sacks are probably going to be high, right? There's going to be some 3 and outs. So that's a great protection to your plays. So I like both sides of this, man. Good stuff. Another one I want to throw out to you. What are the chances that only Mahomes and Brady throw a pass in this Super Bowl? Man, there has to be a gadget play between Bruce Arians and Andy Reid, in my opinion here. It'd be a shame if nobody else threw a pass. I remember even on the Patriots, they threw a few to Brady during some of their big games in the Super Bowls and the playoffs. I like over 2.5 at plus 150 here to throw a unit on. I just see something happening, my man. What are your thoughts?
It's hard to argue that one. I know the basically saying is anybody besides the two of them going to throw a pass, and you're giving 2-1 on the money. You have two of the most innovative offensive minds in the game going head to head. So chances are you're probably in good shape with that one. When it comes down to specific coaching game plans, it's hard to put a finger on it. Everything you've seen from these two coaches would let you believe that they'll do a Philly special, and they would do it, especially with Mahomes being able to be mobile if he is mobile. And, you have a lot of speedsters on the Kansas City side. And, Brady has been involved with guys like Edelman before. Obviously, Edelman not in this game, who was throwing passes. So you would think that would be the case. But at the end of the day, if it's Mahomes 35 passes, Brady 35 passes, and that's it, no one's going to be surprised, hence why it's plus money. I think it's a good stab if you want to have a fun one, go out there. And, hell, for all you know, you could have a botched extra point where the holder stands up and throws the damn ball away, and you win the thing there as well. Or a botched field goal wouldn't count if it was an extra point. It throws it away, or you could have a fake punt that decides to be a pass. So there's many different ways for you to win that prop. I'll be rooting for it, but it's not one I'm going to be on.
Well, I'll tell you this. I wouldn't take it in any old football game, any average game during the year. This is the Super Bowl where they have to drum up some stuff, and they have extra time to do it. And I'll be damned if they don't have somebody else throw a pass in this game. So I'm on this one. Let's move to an end of the game prop here. And I got one to surprise you, and it seems pretty public to me. But let me ask you a question, David. Are football players or athletes in general, are they superstitious?
I think they are. I would say most are. We've done a lot of pieces on it. I would assume that there are probably a player or two using the same boxers or using the same sweatbands they used the last time they were in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that.
The answer is yes. Heck yeah, they're superstitious, especially baseball players, but football players are as well. So the color of the Gatorade. Well, last year it was orange, right? And when Kansas City won the Super Bowl. I mean, if you're going to win the Super Bowl with orange Gatorade, who the hell is going to change the color of it this time? Who's going to put their job on the line to put some blue Gatorade in there, and finally the players lose the Super Bowl and they figure out why? It's because their Gatorade's blue. I wouldn't want to be that water boy, I'll tell you right now. But at the same time, it really lines up to being orange because Kansas City, they are the color of orange. They are the favorite in this game. Instead of just betting the minus 168 or whatever it is right now for Kansas City to win, I'd rather take my shot on the orange Gatorade. And here's the other two things. Orange is the best tasting Gatorade around. I don't care what anybody says. It was the first Gatorade I drank. It's what got me hooked on Gatorade. And now they have all these weird purple passions and citrus type stuff. The hell with that. It's orange, and that's what feels the best when you're drinking it. And that's what they won it with last year. Number two, if by some dang reason the Chiefs do not win this game, there's still a chance that Tampa's going to have some orange Gatorade in their thing too. So superstition tells me that it's going to be orange, and I'd be pretty shocked if it wasn't. But I think the number tells you that too, because you got orange as a pretty heavy favorite here, David.
You want me to blow your mind at the end of this podcast? I know you bring me on here for facts and stuff. You want me to blow your mind with the stat of all stats?
I absolutely do.
I'm not going to pretend that us at ESPN have a Gatorade database. We don't. But somehow, some way, I got on an email list with our friend David Purdom for the Gatorade results at the Super Bowl historically from Gatorade themselves. Sent us the results. And you're not wrong, sir. Orange was last year, and this database from Gatorade goes back to Super Bowl 40. And in the 15 Super Bowls since, orange, 5 of the 15, leading the way at 33%. You have last year's Super Bowl with Kansas City. You go back to Peyton Manning's Super Bowl win in Super Bowl 50 was orange. 2 years earlier when Russell Wilson's Seattle beat Peyton Manning was orange. And then the Saints Super Bowl win and the Packers Super Bowl win were both orange. So you have 5 of the last 15. Now, before we go any further, since I'm blowing your mind with all these Gatorade stats, which color is second most common in the last 15 years?
I would go with clear because they screwed up and grabbed the wrong one.
Super Bowl 40, Super Bowl 41, and Super Bowl 42, the first 3 years that they tracked this, Steelers win, Colts win, Giants upset win, all 3 were clear, and 3 out of 15 is the second most at 20%. So you nailed it. Clear is second, and then there's a 3-way tie between yellow, blue, and none at all because either the cameras didn't catch it or there was no Gatorade bath for whatever reason. There was none in the Patriots win in overtime. Obviously, there's none because it was a walk-off win that you never see in the Super Bowl. The Ravens win over the Niners was none as well. So 2 nuns, and then purple comes in dead last, only having the second Giants Super Bowl win over the Patriots. So there you have it. Orange, 33%, 5 of them. Clear, 3 of them at 20%. Blue, none, and yellow all have 1 in the last 15 years, and then 2, and then comes purple with only 1 of them.
Well, would you look at that? Don't think I didn't do a little bit of research here before I did this,
See
David.
if there's any other podcast in the entire world that's going to dedicate 3 minutes of Gatorade historical results.
I'll tell you, we might be the only one, but hopefully it all comes through for our listeners, my man. Do you have any other props that you'd like to share, MVPs or anything pertaining to this Super Bowl?
No, that's all I've done so far. I will be doing a lot more over the next couple of days. I would say have fun with it. Print out our prop guide that we're going to come out on Thursday and then find some ones. I'm a value guy like you, so I look to find props that I think are the edges in our favor. You can always have fun and just bet normal props. But to me, that's where the square pools come in. You got numbers, root for numbers. I'm going to stand by the Chiefs winning this one. I'm not even coming close to playing the total because I can't cautiously take an under with the Chiefs, and I think the number's a little bit too high to play the over. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Chiefs, a couple of Chiefs winning margins, 7-12 and -7.5. And I already mentioned I'm taking the first turnover of the game to be an interception at -160. I'm taking the no score in the first 5 minutes at -135. And that's what I have now, and we'll see what we have as the week gets closer.
All right, and that 7-12 is plus 450 to all you listeners out there, so that's a fantastic number right there. And recap on mine, field goal first score plus 400, plus 500 on both sides. Clyde Edwards-Helaire plus 1,300, Leonard Fournette plus 1,100, and Mike Evans plus 1,000. First to score touchdowns. We're going to Tom Brady passing attempts under 39.5, Leonard Fournette over 3.5 receptions, Tyreek Hill over 102 receiving yards, Tampa Bay over 1.5 sacks, as well as looks like we're taking the total sack margin as well, 4, making sure we're going to go over that, and total players to have a passing attempt for me over 2.5 with the Gatorade at plus 125 to close it all out, my man.
I will probably, as you noticed, the ones I picked so far are game related, not player related. I will probably play the sacks over 4, as I mentioned. Some of the other player ones I've looked at, I think I'm going to jump in on the Fournette over 3.5 catches. I will probably play under on Godwin and Evans only because of the Chiefs secondary, and I'm likely to play the over in Tyreek Hill, like you said. I'm going to see where the numbers end up. But I've already jumped on the game-related ones. I just have to do a little bit more math on the player-related ones, and those numbers are moving all over the hell anyway.
All right. Well, there's going to be another podcast later this week when we discuss one of the bookmakers at MyBookie that makes the props, and I'll give out our Super Bowl MVP in tomorrow's show at ats.io with Adam Burke. David, where can our listeners find your articles and your ESPN prop plays?
If you go to espn.com/chalk, you will see all of our information. Right now, we have nuggets that are up there, and we have notable bets from David Purdom. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have our best bets guide tomorrow, our prop sheet on Thursday, and the Swami Chris Bearman Super Bowl pick on Friday.
Swami. Can't wait to see that stuff, my man. Thanks so much, David, for coming on. Really appreciate all your insights. I'm excited for the Super Bowl and all of your plays. Hopefully it all comes to fruition and we have a great time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the game.
My friends, if you have any questions for us, please tweet us at The Odds Breakers. Make sure you follow David at DBearman, ESPN on Twitter. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.